I care about divestment because I care about justice, because I care about the state of our planet, and I care about all of the people who live on this planet, and I care especially about the fact that the fossil fuel industry and climate change disproportionately affect those in our society who are already the most marginalized, whose voices are already the least heard, and further makes them more and more vulnerable, and that makes me really, really angry. And that's why I want my university to divest from fossil fuels now. We are demanding that Harvard divest its direct holdings from fossil fuels. So since Harvard has such a massive endowment, it's managed by the Harvard Management Company, and 97% of Harvard's $36.4 billion endowment is in indirect holdings. So that's completely private. We can't see that. We don't know what's in that. But the direct holdings, which are only 3% of Harvard's endowment, we can see what Harvard's investments in its direct holdings, and those will be very, very easy for Harvard to divest. So indirect holdings, there's a lot more to asking Harvard to divest its indirect holdings, but for the direct holdings, that's what Harvard has specifically chosen to be invested in. And Harvard is currently invested in 4 fossil fuel companies, and every quarter that changes, and every quarter the amount of money Harvard has invested in these fossil fuel companies in its direct holdings changes. This quarter, Harvard only has $20 million out of a $36 billion endowment. Only $20 million invested in fossil fuels, and we are demanding that Harvard divest that money, move that money from the fossil fuel industry into sustainable initiatives. Harvard has an opportunity to be a moral leader right now. We think that this is a justice issue, and that's why we're asking Harvard to stand on the right side of history. We're saying, Harvard, whose side are you on? Because the name Harvard is so big that we believe that Harvard divesting right now from fossil fuels can start a chain reaction of more and more divestment. And what we need right now is big action. It's great that I like to ride my bike, it's great that I'm a vegetarian, it's great that I try and be environmentally friendly, but that's not going to mitigate climate change. Climate change is too big of an issue for us to tackle it in piecemeal, small individual actions. We really need large collective actions. We really need legislation. We really need our government to take a stand. And right now our government can't take a stand because it's choked by the fossil fuel industry. Because of the power of the fossil fuel lobby, we can't pass any of the legislation we need to mitigate climate change. So the theory of change with divestment is that as institutions like Harvard and other really big names divest from fossil fuels and say that it is morally wrong to be invested in the destruction of our planet and the further marginalization of the most vulnerable people in our society, the fossil fuel industry will be stigmatized to the extent that it will lose its political power so that we can pass the legislation we need to make meaningful change.
People gonna rise like the water, gonna calm this crisis.